So, in my browsing around online, basically the Canucks message board, Sportsnet, TSN, your usual Canadian hockey fan, there's some odd things, and even on this channel, odd things about the Canucks that I thought, all right, I need to address this before I go out today and get about my day, and then I'll come back and do videos later. Stanley Cup champs, I have to do a couple of finalists videos. I'm going to have some fun with that. And then there's a new series I'm going to start about players. That's coming soon as well, where I'll chronicle players, but I'm going to chronicle players that aren't as well known as the Gretzkys, Lemieux, and all that. But they're still very relevant players or played relevant roles at different times. But let's get back to the Canucks. So, I want to get the whole Vanek thing out there. So they signed Vanek yesterday and everybody loses their brains over it. And then there's people saying, well, what if that knocks Besser out of the lineup? It's not going to knock Besser out of the lineup. I can't see it. If it knocks Besser out of the lineup, it means he's not ready. If a 33-year-old Thomas Vanek outplays him in the preseason and in training camp, then by all means put Besser in the American Hockey League. I just can't see it happening. Trevor Linden has said publicly he figures they're going to be very competitive this year and that they're trying to build the best team they can. What else is he going to say? This is the part that gets me. What else is Trevor Linden going to say right now about the Canucks? Is he going to stand up there and go, yeah, this team sucks. Yeah, I wouldn't watch these guys. This is going to be crap. No. There's no delusion right now with Linden or Benning that they have a team that's going to win the Stanley Cup. I would go as far as to say I don't think they're delusional enough to think this team's going to have a good shot at the playoffs. They've signed reasonable contracts. I know Louis Eriksson came in last year. I know last summer they had this grand plan that they could somehow get another really good year out of the Sedins if they brought in Eriksson. That didn't work, so we're in a rebuild. They're not saying it. And I can remember Oilers teams that were really bad saying the same thing. Oh, next year we're going to compete. We're going to be better, blah, 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 blah. And you knew they weren't. Owners, GMs, coaches will say whatever they have to. What else are players going to say? Is a player going to be there on the machine? All right. Yeah, getting all ready. All right, I'm ready. All right. First question. Yeah, no, we're going to be crap. Next question. Nah, I plan to bottom out this year. I figure I'm going to get about 11 goals. Next question. Yeah, no, we've got the worst team in the league. Oh, it's not even close. I looked at depth charts. We're not even close. It's ridiculous, right? Exactly. So the idea that the Canucks have this delusional belief that they're better than they are is crazy. And I look no further than net. So they couldn't keep Ryan Miller. They bring in Anders Nilsson. They didn't bring in Mason or Elliott or a starter. They brought in Nilsson. Now, this is where there could be a delusion happening if Benning really thinks that Jacob Markstrom is capable of being a starter right now. There's been nothing in Markstrom's game to this point to tell me he's ready to be a starter in the NHL. His stats have been poor. His stats have been poor all the way along. They've got better. They're better now than they were when he first reached Vancouver, but not by enough for me to say, yes, this is a starting goaltender. And Nilsson has never been a starting goaltender. Now look at the blue line. Who's it built around? Think about it. Stedler? Tanev? Tanev gets hurt all the time. Edler's past it. I love Edler back in the day, but right now, and the way he looked last season, he was a poor replica of himself. So who's the defense built around? Del Zotto? Goodbranson? Stetcher? Trampkin bolted? So, on the blue line and in net, there's been no improvement for the Canucks. They lost Miller. They lost Trampkin. They brought in Del Zotto. They bring back Goodbranson, who was injured for a lot of last year. And that you make moves like this to make sure that your rookies aren't forced to play if they're not ready. And then I keep seeing questions being asked. They've been asked on the channel, and they've been asked on CDC as well. What about Magna and Chaput? what about Megna and Chaput? Chaput had 9 points last year and Megna had 8. And they both had top 6 minutes at times during the season. They're fill-ins. They did their job. I commend them for doing their job. They did it well. They're going to the American Hockey League. I was stunned when Chaput was playing with the Sedins. I remember when I watched the Sedins and Granlund together against Boston. And Granlund gets 2 goals in the first period. And I'm like, oh, maybe Boston's going to blow this game. Maybe the Canucks showed up tonight. And then the Sedins were with Chaput for the rest of the game, and they were invisible. I have no problem with Chaput being in the American League. I have no problem with Megna being in the American League. They changed coaches. Desjardins had this weird desire to see any time that a player got going, he'd switch lines around to try to get all the lines going. Oh, you're scoring well tonight. Well, I'll move you away from your line mates, move you to these 2 bums that can't score so you can get them going. That's not how it works in the National Hockey League. You get a line with chemistry, you ride it, especially when you don't have depth. And the Canucks still don't have top 6 forward depth. They have lots of top 9 guys. They don't have very many top 6. And I agree with the assertion that they're probably one of the worst forward groups in the league, even with Anik Vanek. But again, where I diverge away from a lot of the naysayers and a lot of the people who, we hate the Canucks, they suck, they're going to suck forever. Where I divert from that is that I think they've made the right moves recently, the last couple of years. I think a couple of trades have worked out very well for Jim Benning. I think it's too early to say whether any prospect, including you, Levy, is going to be great or going to be bad, and I think you kind of have to wait out the clock. When Benning came in, he inherited a mess. Mike Gillis left a mess. Here's your team, bunch of overpaid veterans, all on no trade clauses. Enjoy. Bye. It was a mess. 2011 was the worst thing that happened to this team. If the Canucks had... Okay, so they had the 3-0 series lead on Chicago, and they won the series in 7. If they had lost that series in 7, if they had been up 3-0 and lost a series in the first round, 2011, the Stanley Cup final doesn't happen. Oddly enough, Boston may not have won the Stanley Cup that year because I don't know that they would have beat Chicago, because I think Chicago, if they'd come back from 3-0 down against the Canucks and won that series, they could have gone on and won another Stanley Cup, which would mean they'd have 4 Stanley Cups, which would mean, yes, they would have been a dynasty. So that's an interesting thing to consider. But from a Canucks perspective, because they went to that Stanley Cup final, it hid a lot of their deficiencies. It meant a lot of their players who were very easily replaced were given too much money and no trade clauses. And that guys who probably should have been moved out based on age or production were kept around because of 2011. When John Tortorella was in Vancouver, he said, you guys got to forget about 2011. It's gone. And there were people who were upset with that, like, oh, that's just stupid. And he's right. He was right then, and he's right now. But the other thing I want to address is, whenever anybody says we should trade the Sedins, no. A, nobody's touching the Sedins right now. B, they're not going to make the Canucks better or worse by being here. C, they're excellent ambassadors for the game and for the team, and they bring butts into the arena for games. They sell tickets. And my last point would be, keep them around and then make them a rental at the deadline if and when the Canucks are in a position to do so. And if the Sedins waive their no trade to go to, say, LA or San Jose or New York or wherever somebody needs 2 forwards, the Canucks eat a large portion of their contracts, gets back a number 1 draft pick, maybe 2 draft picks, maybe a draft pick and a prospect, whatever they get back. The topic of the Sedins being Canucks has been beat to death, and I'm only addressing it here because I want to address it for the last time. The Canucks are in a good position right now. I know it doesn't look like they are, but they are, as long as they maintain this path. Vanek's not going to hurt them. Vanek's another rental. If they can rent out Vanek at the deadline, if they can rent out the Sedins at the deadline, and any one of their other forwards or defensemen who might be on their way down, if they can rent out, they wouldn't even have to rent out Tanev. If they could trade Tanev at the deadline, they'll make a mint in draft picks and prospects. And all the naysayers that say Benning's an idiot, blah, 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 will then at the deadline say, oh, look at all this cap space the Canucks have moving forward. Look at all these prospects and draft picks they have moving forward. That's really smart. Because as I said in the Alex Wenberg video yesterday, Kekalainen has taken a situation where he had a horrible cap and it looked terrible for years to come. I saw writings last summer about how there were a lot of bad contracts in Columbus and this was just awful. And now they're all right. It is amazing what a difference a year or two can make. And I really honestly think the Canucks are going to be in good shape as soon as next summer. And I could see them having 3 first-round draft picks in a decent draft. 2018 is supposed to be a good draft. And I could see them picking up another couple of prospects to go with guys like Pettersson and Dahlin, who are going to stay where they are and grow to become the players that hopefully are capable of replacing some of the skilled top 6 we've lost over the last half a decade. All right, I'm done ranting for now. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.